This is me, is Queen Haru, and I'm coming to you today with another exciting edition of Ask An Aquarius. So if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and smack the bell. So today, someone asked me to talk about protection magic. Yesterday, I was talking about how I ran into a situation with a warlock and I had to put up extra protections and things along those lines. So someone wanted me to talk about this. So I'll give you a little bit of information. First of all, I don't recommend that people who are not a witch, a priestess, a shaman already, a magic worker, whatever, a priestess, whatever, just go out and just start using and trying spells and magic, because you really should know what you're doing. When I first started, that's what I did. I just got a spell and just did it, and I pulled it off, but I didn't know what I was doing, so I didn't know how to deal with the consequences of what I did. Okay, so in most cases, you can go online, you can find spells, you can find rituals on YouTube, you can find all that kind of stuff. And if you're somebody who is skilled at what you're doing, if you're already doing that kind of thing, you'll be able to discern what's good and what's right, and you'll be able to use it and maybe even, do some great magic with it. But if you don't know anything, or if you're seeking, I would suggest not doing anything magical. Reading is what you really want to do. In the Wicca tradition, they recommend that you use a year and a day to learn magic before you decide if you want to do magic or not. So give yourself a year and a day of studying, of reading about different traditions and learning before you start trying to pull something off. A lot of times you can pull it off. A lot of times it does work immediately, but like in my case, I did a love spell and I didn't know what I was doing. And then he started acting crazy and I didn't know how to deal with it, So it took me years to figure out exactly what I had to do. So I recommend to people that you learn first. Okay. If you're given a spell book, it's easy to pull off any spell that's in the book, but the problem is that it's like the equivalent of a cookbook. Okay, a cookbook has in it all the recipes that you need to make, and if somebody is a chef, they can take the cookbook and they can, with pretty much ease and precision, make every last item that's inside of it. But if somebody has never cooked before, never turned on a stove, never owned pots and pans, it's not a good idea. There's things you need to know before cooking. You need to know food safety. You need to know how to keep your food fresh, how to keep it from being cross-contaminated. It's a lot of stuff you need to know before you start cooking that's not in the cookbook. You also need to know your equipment. What kind of pots do you have? What kind of stove do you have? Is your stove compatible with your pots and pans? Do you have the right utensils? So all of this kind of stuff is not in the cookbook. They tell you the basic minimum that you need to pull off this particular dish. And it's the same way with a spell book. They tell you what you need to do to pull off the spell. They take it into consideration that you know how to cast a circle. They take it into consideration that you have an altar built, that you have the proper ingredients, that you know how to bless and consecrate your ingredients. Okay? That it's the right moon, that you know when the right moon is. They take all of this into consideration. They take it for granted. They don't take it into consideration. They take it for granted that you know all of this, because they're thinking, who would just try to do magic without knowing anything? A lot of people. A lot of people. So like I said, spend a year and a day learning, researching, getting to know everything that you would need to know before beginning. I know a lot of people who don't know anything. They've never read, researched anything. They just go for it. And some of the times, I don't know, because they say it works for them. Some of them say it works for them. But I'm looking at them and I'm looking at their magic. I'm looking at their life. And I'm like, is it really working for you? Because if your magic is working, your life should be improving. If your life isn't improving, then your magic is not working. So I question that. But the people who do study and then start to do magic are people that I've seen have success. So if I were you, I would do it in that manner. Just like I wouldn't trust a doctor who had never gone to medical school. You're not cutting me open, you've never been to medical school. And the truth of the matter is that, you know, up until a certain point, there was no medical school. So there was some, you know, people who were just intuitively figuring out the body, who maybe their mother or grandmother taught them how to do these things, you know, and they figured out the rest on their own. Yeah, that's true. The same way, like I said, a witch could do that. But for me, for my body, I don't want somebody intuitively digging around on me. You know, I need you to have some tests and some credentials and, you know, some degrees, you know. So it's the same thing for me when it comes to witchcraft. I need somebody who's studied what they're doing and not just study, you know, a couple books. I want somebody who studied from different standpoints, different cultures. Somebody who studied hoodoo, somebody who studied voodoo, Yoruba, Wicca, you know, Mayat, you know, people who are coming from different traditions, different standpoints, Santeria, you know, shamans from the Native American traditions. I want to hear from people from different traditions. If you have a spiritual system that encourages you to ignore knowledge from other traditions, you have an exploitative spiritual system that's trying to just keep you in that one bubble so that they can keep your funds or your inner, whatever they're trying to keep you. A lot of times they're trying to keep you from, you know, going off to another spiritual system. So if you have one that's encouraging you to only read knowledge from them, then something's wrong. The other day I was telling somebody that I was reading a Buddhist book right now. It's about mindfulness. And she was saying, I thought you were a priestess of Mayat. And I'm like, I am. And she was like, well, didn't you read Solitary Witch by Silver Ravenwolf? Yeah. And she was like, isn't that Wiccan? Yeah. And she's like, well, how can you read things from different traditions? You can read things from any tradition. They all have jewels. They all have gems. You can initiate into one thing, but read things from other traditions. It's not going to kill you. There's nothing wrong with it, you know. You have to use your discernment to figure out, you know, what works for you and what doesn't, obviously. You know, sometimes I even look at the Bible. And I look at different Psalms that I like, or a passage I like, or a story that I like. Some of the stories I really like, you know, like the story about Paul on the road to Damascus. I love that story. I think it's really cool about how he turned his life around. So Job, the story of Job, I always found to be very interesting. So certain stories I like, you know, and I look at things from different places. You know, you don't have to just read one thing because you initiated into that one thing, you know. So like I said before, read and learn things before getting into heavy magic, seriously, you know. But if you are somebody who is unknowledgeable about magic or just learning about magic, there are certain things anybody can do, somebody who's in magic or not, you know. So one of them is amulets. So when we talk about protection magic, one of the things you can do is wear amulets. Amulets are very strong protection magic. I've been selling these forever. I have them made by a jeweler. The stone in here is real. This is rhodonite. And then I enchant them and I wear them. This one is not enchanted for protection though. This one is enchanted for love, the heart chakra. I wear two of them. This one I enchanted for the heart chakra as well, because that was one of the big problems I had and I'm still working through. This is green aventurine for the heart chakra. So I've always had those, but you can get one for protection. The amulets, what you want to do is you want to get one that has a protection stone in it, and then either have it enchanted or buy one that's enchanted, whatever the case is. If I was going to do one of these, and I've done these for protection, I usually use black obsidian or black onyx, and the person can just wear their amulet. That's one easy form of protection magic, and you don't have to do anything. All you got to do is make sure that you don't. One thing I tell people is don't be having people touch it. I don't like people touching on my amulets. Not because, you know, they can do anything to it, but the amulet, especially if it's geared for protection, and you got these people, you know, putting their nasty energy on it. You know, I don't like that. Like, get off my stuff, you know. So that's one thing that you can do. One amulet that I do wear for protection is this one right here. I'm going to show you. It's made of black obsidian. And I enchanted this one for protection. Now you'll see there's a face on it. The face is Kuan Yin. And Kuan Yin is actually one of the goddesses of compassion, self-compassion. And they always say forgiveness, love. That's her. But the other thing that she does is protect. She protects people in general. A lot of women like to work with Kuan Yin because of that. So if I'm going to do a house cleansing, or if I'm going out someplace that's questionable, or if I feel negative energy, I put on this one. And I wear this amulet. So that's one thing anybody can do. That's really simple. And what is happening is the amulet is, it has a crystal in it. The crystal is, the enchantment that I put on them is double protection. So the enchantment that I put on it is double. But the crystal itself is designed to absorb negative and evil energy. So every so often I just cleanse it. It absorbs the negative energy and I just cleanse it. That's it. You either, put it out on for the full moon, cleanse it in the full moon. Certain crystals you can wash with salt. Certain ones you can't. Certain ones you put out in the sun. Each one is different. You have to know the nature of the crystal. So for black obsidian, if I'm using it for protection, I usually will wash it and I will put it on the windowsill during the full moon to cleanse it. And then it's recharged and I put it back on. So that's one easy way that anybody can use protection magic. Very simple one that you really can't mess up. Another way is using crystals themselves. Black obsidian, once again, is my favorite protection crystal. So one of the things I do whenever when I worked as a high school teacher, or whenever I live somewhere, wherever I sleep, I surround the room with black obsidian. Or wherever I work, I surround the room with black obsidian. So black obsidian crystals online are like a couple dollars. Depends on where you buy them from. One time I bought a box, like a 23-pound box, and it was like $10. And I broke them and I put them around the room in the corners. Every corner I put one piece of black obsidian. And that is to draw in any negativity that comes in, to suck that negativity down. That's one way. And then every so often I would wash them. I'll put them in the full moon light and put them back in the room. When I worked as a high school teacher, I did exactly the same thing, but I didn't want nobody messing with them, and I didn't want nobody to see them. So I put them in the ceiling. The ceiling's pushed up, those drop ceilings. So I put them in the four corners of the ceiling to protect the room. So those are very easy, very cheap and expensive, easy methods of protection magic that anybody can do and, won't, mess themselves up or end up in a bad situation, So those are easy ones. Also, another thing that anybody can do, I see a lot of people online recommending smudging. Anybody can smudge. Smudging is when you take herbs, protection herbs, and you burn them in your home. Anybody can do this. You don't have to be a priestess or anything like that. Sage is one of the most common protection herbs. People will just get sage and, wave it, around. Palo Santo, same thing. You just burn it and people will just wave it around their energy. It puts up a protective barrier. If you have negative energy coming towards you, it generally cleanses the energy and puts up a protective barrier. I personally like frankincense and myrrh. Frankincense and myrrh are the gifts they gave baby Jesus in the Bible. And what they are incense. One draws angels, frankincense draws angels, myrrh repels evil energy. So those are protective energies as well. So a lot of times I'll sit and just burn frankincense and myrrh. And you don't want to use the incense sticks when it comes to this kind of work. The incense sticks usually are just fragrance. So if you want to do frankincense and myrrh, what you want to do is the frankincense and myrrh resin. That's the way that they call it online. And you take them, they're rocks. They're little rocks of frankincense and myrrh. And you have to use coals. You can also buy the coals online. And these are coals to burn incense specifically, not barbecue coals. Somebody asked me that before, and I was like, don't do that. So you take the incense coal, and you just drop a few of the rocks on it, and it burns. That's it. And usually people will take it and they'll walk through their home with it. Some people when I do it, I walk through the home with it, and then I put it in the living room or whatever area people congregate the most, and let it just burn. And again, this will cleanse the air, cleanse the energy, and put up a protective barrier. So those are three very common ways that people can use. And those ways are cool because not only can you not mess them up, they're, really inexpensive as well. Those are for people who have, not too much going on. If you're in a full-fledged magic war, like I was talking about yesterday, if you have people sending bad juju at you at a continuous basis, maybe even trying to put spells on you, that's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough at all. It's going to be helpful. It's better than nothing, but it's not going to be enough. If somebody's throwing juju at you, you have to, number one, get the juju taken off. You have to it's kind of like somebody throwing mud on you. You got to wash the mud off first. And then after you get the juju off, then you put up your protections. You put up your barriers. So if somebody's doing something to you and you're certain that that's what's going on, you have to go to a priestess to get it removed. And then after it's removed, then you want to use most of us would do like a protection spell first, and then we would give you protective things like putting crystals around, wearing amulets, things like that. That's usually how it goes. Because if somebody's throwing juju at you actively, then that's where the problem comes in at. Most of us don't get juju thrown at us. Most of us just are around negative energy, negative people, negative vibrations, gossip, treachery, rumors, stuff like that. Usually that's what it is. So frankincense, myrrh, sage, Palo Santo, things like that they can handle those kind of things very simplistically. It's just bad energy. All this is about energy. And those energies are getting rid of those bad energies, canceling out those bad energies. And that's what it's about. Black obsidian absorbs the bad energy, and then you release it when you cleanse it. So it's all about energy. So if you have somebody throwing spells at you, they're throwing very powerful energy, and you have to remove their energy and then put up really powerful barriers to hold it back. Okay, so it depends on what level you're at, but the average person can use the methods that I just mentioned and be fine. Okay, and if you are a magic worker, if you're a priestess, a shaman, a witch, there are a lot of things that you can do. One of my favorites is the witch's bottle. You can Google that, you can look at that. A witch's bottle is really cool. If you are already into doing this kind of thing, you can create one for your home, and you can bury it in your home or bury it in your front yard, and it'll keep you protected. One of the things that'll keep you protected. For a witch, a shaman, a priestess, a magic worker, I recommend multiple protections. So I have a witch's bottle. I have the crystals in the corner. I have the amulets on my body. I have crystals underneath the bed. I have them next to the bed, I do prayers, I call upon the angels. I recommend multiple protections if you're doing spiritual work, because you're opening yourself up, to energies. So multiple protections are the easiest way to keep yourself safe. Okay? So that's my piece on protection magic. See you later. Bye-bye.